I'm the Executive Chairman. And I want to give you a little bit of a story about Asra because it's a fairly new name and many of you may not have heard of it before. The company was originally Torian Resources. It's been a company that's been around for a long time, in excess of 30 years. Before Torian, it used to be Clough Minerals. Gold exploration company, active gold exploration in the Leonora area since around 2016 and held a substantial amount of ground throughout the goldfields of Western Australia. I came in 2018 and tried to dispose of a lot of the ground because the company really couldn't afford to retain all of it. Concentrated on the Leonora area, undertook a fairly active exploration program from really 2019 onwards, and we've continued with that exploration program until the present time. However, in November last year, and not looking for rare earths, and I can tell you that I didn't know much about rare earths at all, and probably a lot of people here don't, but we had a major discovery. My exploration manager and myself were walking the ground at a place called Stirling Central on our ground at Leonora, about 20 kilometres north of Leonora, and we came across some very unusual ground, different to everything else we had out there. My exploration manager used to work for Northern Minerals. He was one of the early geos on the Browns Range project. We had heavily drilled this area for arsenic indication. We were looking for gold. Arsenic is an indicator with our PXRF guns for gold. However, this area which we had substantially drilled really was showing no reasonable arsenic readings, and we were about to abandon the program. My exploration manager looked at this particular unusual ground, hit it with a PXRF, got a high yttrium reading. He explained to me that yttrium is an indicator of rare earths, and we started looking at the thousands of small bags we had out there of the drilling campaign, which we were about to abandon, and on examination of those bags, we were getting high yttrium readings for most of them. Started sending the bags off to the labs, and the rest is somewhat history. So as you can see on the opening page, we've called it, we've bannered it the rarest of the rare, and I'll explain that to you. But I do reiterate that we were not looking for rare earths. It wasn't a target of ours at all. It was purely by chance, and sometimes these things can happen by chance. So the ground that our rare earths discovery is on is 100% owned by Asra Minerals. It's in Western Australian Eastern Goldfields, 20 kilometres from Leonora. And as many of you would know, it's one of the world's most prolific and safest mining jurisdictions. Unusually, it's pretty well underwater at the moment. So we're close to existing mining infrastructure, and most of you will recognise King of the Hills, Red 5's King of the Hills. They have the ground abutting our ground, so what you can see in grey there is pretty well all Asra ground. A lot of what you can see on that map identifies gold targets. However, aside from that, you'll see two areas in green in the middle, Wishbone and Yttria, and I'll get back to those shortly, but they are the two deposits that we've so far discovered in respect of the rare earths. So there's many advantages for us with this location. We've got an abundance of water. We're on the Tarmulla Aquifer. We've got the Goldfields Highway running right past our ground. We've got rail within 20 kilometres to the Leonora Township. And obviously there's an experienced mining workforce to draw on from that area. But the other important point is that we actually own the pastoral lease covering the entire project. So should we be fortunate to bring this project to fruition, we've got easy access to water, and we also have the advantage of less statutory hoops to step through in relation to being the pastoral lease owner. So what did our assays reveal? So Mt Stirling's rare earth deposits contain an extraordinarily high ratio of heavy rare earths to light rare earths of about 65%. That's really the highest ratio seen in this country, and really the only one that we know of that's comparable is the Browns Range project, where my exploration manager formerly worked of Northern Minerals. So what we found from our mineralogy is that we have the 5 most critical rare earths: dysprosium, terbium, europium, neodymium and yttrium, and obviously that very high ratio. So Mt Stirling's rare earth deposits are also very unique in that we've got virtually no traces of uranium or thorium. So we have an avoidance of those issues of dealing with the nasties of radiation when processing and transporting. Obviously, it reduces our costs of extraction. So the current strike of our rare earths, the mineralised corridor, is 5.4 kilometres by 1.3 kilometres. And the size is only limited by the drilling to date. We estimate that it's actually much, much larger. So aside from the rare earths, we also have significant levels of highly valuable scandium. We have scandium, we have cobalt, we have gold and a nickel, all coming up in our assays. And that's just in this particular area. It's pretty exciting. So for many of you, scandium might be a new term, and in the broking area, I know it has been referred to in the past as scandium, because it's something that's very limited in resource around the world. It is avoided when possible because of its cost. I think the last time I looked, it was around $24,000, I think, a kilo. The issue with scandium, and if you read up on it, is that it is becoming much more desirable in relation to the technology advancing with rare earths and metals. It's used as an aluminium alloy additive. It makes, it traditionally was used actually for rockets and fighter jets, but there are becoming many more uses for it, especially with hydrogen fuels, transportation of hydrogen, and also hydrogen fuel cells, for example, in vehicles, require scandium to prevent an attack on the natural metals. So we've had very good results in our rare earths. Well, our grades would be considered mid-grade, but because we are close to surface and because we have a very unique occurrence, the grades from an extraction point of view are very, very good. I'll just give you a moment to have a look at our grades. And there is a lot of information to come out because this has been a very extensive drilling program and very advanced. So to give you an idea of the way our structure looks, essentially the brown is crust. The grey above is the scandium and cobalt. Now the scandium and cobalt is homogeneous, and over that 5.5 kilometres that we've so far identified, it is consistent, both in grade and in existence. The green that runs between is the rare earths. So it's the rare earths occurrence, which thickens and then reduces and thickens again. It's not as consistent as the scandium. And then after that, again, we go to the grey, which is the scandium and cobalt. This is a very, very large scandium cobalt deposit. And as I said, it's homogeneous. It continues right throughout the area that we have so far drilled. So it's shallow soft host lithologies, and we identify it as being very easy to mine, especially considering it's in the first 20 metres. So the point we find ourselves today is that we have advanced our process substantially. We've finished mineralogy, and we are expecting to receive today our first pass metallurgy. From the consultants that we have on board, which I'll discuss later, we're informed that processing of our rare earths may be done relatively cheaply with a very low level of acid. Certainly our initial assaying has revealed a very, very high rate of recovery of around 70%. So we are very, very unique. Our structure has already been processed naturally. It's occurred through weathering, and that's why we are so unique. We're not in hard rock. We're not in ionic clay. Our rare earths have been broken down from a hard rock source and are now supergene enriched from surface. We know of no other occurrence like that at the present time. So our rare earths also appear to be associated with manganese oxides, potentially making extraction much easier and much cheaper. And we've assembled a good team to assist us. We've got Professor Ken Collison, who's been working in the area of rare earths at the University of Queensland for over 18 years, and he is consulting to quite a few companies throughout Australia. We also have Gavin Beer, whose photograph I've seen with quite a few companies this morning and this afternoon. He's a metallurgist consultant and is working for the company. Matt Longworth is my co-director, a non-executive director at Asra Minerals, and very experienced also in the area of scandium and gold. And then my exploration manager, Claudio Sheriff-Seggers, who I can hold responsible for this discovery. Okay, so there's a lot of news to come out, and it's coming out in the short term. We're receiving results from over 10,000 metres of drilling. Metallurgical test work is coming out, we understand, today, so we can expect an announcement very, very soon. An interim maiden resource is expected in Q4 this year. We expect that will be at an indicated level. And subject to positive metallurgical results and proven initial scale of the project, we will begin feasibility studies and explore potential offtake partners in 2023. Whilst looking to grow our resource with extension drilling, we've already got approved 50,000 metres of drilling. So the reality is that Asra is entering a very, very exciting period. So Asra's Mt Stirling Rare Earths Project is very rare. There simply aren't many comparable projects on the planet. We've got a high ratio of heavy rare earths to total rare earths, approximately 65%. We're close to surface in soft regolith, virtually no uranium or thorium. We're in a Tier 1 location within existing infrastructure on Asra's own pastoral lease. But don't forget, we're also a gold exploration company. We've currently got 152,000 ounces of resource, and we're continuing to work on that. Thank you.